All right, welcome to the Call to Freedom here on LRN.FM, broadcast as always from the Liberty Radio studio here in beautiful Keene, New Hampshire. And I really jacked up that camera just now. It'll be okay. The big news, of course, I'm your host, Aria DeMezzo of the anarchist@gmail.com, and I'm joined in the studio today by
Michael Hampton from BitcoinHistory.com. And you're right, there's exactly one news story today.
There is. Where did you get that from?
Every news outlet on the planet.
Well, I mean, sure. The big news today, and we've already been asked about this on our DLive chat, which you can find at dlive.tv, dlive.lrn.fm, about the arrest of Julian Assange.
That is the story.
Yeah, owner, proprietor, CEO of WikiLeaks, and absolute unequivocal journalist.
Exactly.
So this is rather alarming for everybody. Of course, he's being arrested on BS charges. Which, yeah. What did they get him for?
The official charge. The official charge that they arrested him for was skipping bail.
Yeah, skipping bail because he couldn't leave the Ecuadorian embassy without being arrested and extradited to Sweden over charges that were BS in the first place, something about sexual assault.
Right.
Which in turn was going to get him extradited to the United States for sedition against this government to which he has no allegiance.
Right.
And being a journalist, you would expect him to be exempt from those sorts of shenanigans, but clearly not.
Right. Do people not remember the Pentagon Papers?
So
this is still in living memory for some people.
Yeah, and the state has finally gotten their claws into him, it would seem. I would expect an extradition to the United States to follow shortly.
Right.
A lot of people, apparently, when they contest these extraditions, they do so on the grounds that, hey, this isn't about any actual crime. This is about politics, right?
Right.
And that's not going to work here. The UK government knows it's political, and they really don't care because we're so deeply in bed with each other that if we ask for Julian Assange, they're going to hand him over.
On a silver platter.
Yeah, they will not have any objection to it whatsoever. He can say this is politically motivated, and that will certainly be true, but it's not going to matter.
I mean, they're gonna go through their little bureaucratic judicial cover-up, but the result's pretty much going to be the same.
They are. Give me 1 second. It looks like these monitors actually got switched around a bit, so I'm having to find the exact story on it. But yeah, so Julian Assange was arrested. Now, for those who are living under a rock, he rose to prominence when Chelsea Manning, then Bradley Manning, gave him a bunch of documents. And it appears that the charge against Julian Assange is attempting to hack a government computer by offering to remove the password on one of them. And of course, I don't know if that's really hacking, especially if it's a Windows password, because it takes all of 10 seconds to do.
If you're just trying to crack a password, then yeah, that's a crime, apparently.
It is problematic if the computer in question is joined to a domain, if it has no local user. But if there's just a local user, yeah, just burn a password reset disk. There's some that run on the Linux kernel and things like that, entirely outside of Windows, obviously.
Well, if you reset the local admin password, someone's going to notice that if it's on even if it's on a domain. Yeah,
but they had the password at this point. Well, yeah, but if you reset anyone's password, they're going to notice that. I mean, so the theory here is that it's being done to a local account. I don't know how you would go about hacking a domain account password anyway without domain admin credentials. And that would be a lot harder to acquire.
Right.
But even then, I imagine if you were actually in front of the domain controller with the password reset disk, you could do it. I don't think I've ever actually attempted to, but I don't see any reason because it is a local account to that computer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it.
Yeah, if you were on a domain controller, I suppose you probably could just...
Yeah, but there's zero chance that Julian Assange had access to a domain controller.
Or Chelsea Manning.
Well, Julian Assange had the computer in question.
Oh, Chelsea Manning had the computer in question.
No, that's why Julian Assange is being charged with attempting to hack into a government computer.
Because Chelsea Manning sent him the password hash. I actually read the indictment.
The United States has charged WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange of conspiring to hack a computer as part of the 2010 release, blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah. That's what they're charging him with.
Yeah, okay. We'll get further into it, but as I understand it, he actually had the computer and offered to crack it.
No, he didn't. He never had the computer because it was on the classified...
Okay, so it may have been, in fact, joined to a domain.
Chelsea Manning had the computer, had local access to it, and Manning told him how to burn a Linux CD and boot it into Linux and pull the password hash off of it.
Assange told him that.
Assange told him that.
Yeah.
And then Manning sent Assange the password hash.
What benefit does that bring Assange if he's not in front of the computer? Oh, he was able to derive the password from it. Okay.
Which apparently he failed to do.
Yeah. Well, I'm not surprising. I'm not surprised. It's not easy to do something like that. Kudos to him, I guess, for trying. Of course, now the U.S. government isn't happy about it.
Yep.
After spending years of seclusion in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, apparently the Ecuadorian embassy has not been particularly happy with him lately.
Yeah, well, they had a change of government a couple years ago, and the new Ecuadorian president really didn't like Assange.
I believe it, but it also seems like Assange was not a particularly good guest. If what they're saying about him is true. They're saying that he was attacking guards and all kinds of things like that you would expect a guest in your embassy who is there for asylum to not do. Of course, that may also be BS, put forward as an excuse to evict him from the embassy.
Yeah, the whole thing could be made up.
Yeah, we will never know. We have pretty good reason to believe that the charges in Sweden, which have since been dropped, by the way, have been made up.
Yeah, they're talking about bringing those back.
Well, I know they said they were still on the table, and they couldn't say for sure whether or not they would bring them back. But as far as I'm aware, they haven't done so.
Not that I've seen.
The single charge, conspiracy to commit computer intrusion, was filed a year earlier in March 2018 and stems from what prosecutors said was his agreement to break a password to a classified U.S. government computer. It carries a penalty of up to 5 years in prison and is significant in that it's not an espionage charge, a detail that will come as a relief to press freedom advocates. I don't know why that should be a relief to people.
No, this should not be a relief to press freedom advocates because this charge is essentially made up to get at him for his journalistic activities.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if he actually did it, sure, that was really stupid of him to attempt to assist someone in breaking into a government computer. When I worked at an IT firm, I was visited by goons because it was such a random thing. They absolutely had to be goons who wanted me to help them break into the mayor's computer. And to access his emails and some other things like that. And I was just like, look, I don't know anything about that. You guys have to go. But it was such a bizarre occurrence. Never happened again. I didn't even have much of a reputation then for being anti-government. So they just sort of, I did have one. And I had the Cablegate leaks almost before anyone else did, but not almost because I wasn't the source of them, obviously.
Right.
But I had them very early on in the process. So maybe that's why the FBI or whoever it was like, hey, we need to go see if we can bait this idiot into incriminating themselves.
Yeah, no thanks.
They're like, hey, we got some computers in our truck here that came from the mayor, and we want you to help us get into the email. No, I'm good, man.
Yeah, you can handle that yourself.
I don't know you from a sheriff or an FBI agent or anyone else. You're just some random person who stopped by a random computer shop to ask them to help you commit a felony.
Yeah, no thanks.
You're going to have to go now. But Mr. Assange has been living at the Ecuadorian embassy since 2012. British authorities finally arrested him Thursday, heavily bearded and disheveled, which is kind of a natural result of somebody being confined to a single building for such a long period of time.
Yeah, the rumor I heard is that they weren't letting him shave.
Really?
Yeah.
Why not?
I don't know. They were just kind of keeping him locked up.
Well, we can speculate all kinds of things. They might not let him have razors or something like that, especially if he was attacking guards. But this is the Call to Freedom. Don't go anywhere. We're going to talk about this dramatic video in just a moment.
Or the grab shot, and that is a fascinating one because look at how many people it's taking to take him down. He's not going willingly. He has aged more than 7 years since he's been in there. and it's just fascinating to
Welcome back to the
watch.
Call to Freedom here on LRN.FM. I hear that. I had the wrong monitor pulled up, so it took me a second to deal with it. Of course, you're invited to give us a call at 603-283-6160. Again, that's 603-283-6160, or you can use the Discord call-in lines, which you can find at discord.lrn.fm if you would prefer the clearer quality. We would certainly prefer you reach us that way. Again, that's discord.lrn.fm. Now, we are joined now by a regular caller. This is Rev, who I have... No, he's not muted. Look at me. I'm on top of things today. Well, sort of. Rev, what's on your mind? You said you had something related to a study that you mentioned at some point.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's funny that you're a top for once. No pun intended. Ha, ha, ha. Anyway, Queens, I got to go soon and get a part for my new Beretta pistol. But real quick, yeah, a few little topics. I'll hit them really quickly. So the Assange thing, I do feel bad. I question really the legality as far as Interpol or whoever is concerned with this whole thing. My question is, I'd have to do more research, but I've heard some conspiracies. I don't know how well-founded these conspiracies are, but I've heard weird
They're
stuff
usually
that
not
some
well-founded at all.
Well, I guess it depends what conspiracies, right? Like 9/11, some of those conspiracies seem to have more scientific evidence than others. But
well, yeah, the conspiracy about 9/11 is that, 23 hijackers, primarily from Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, hijacked 3 planes and completely bypassed NORAD and flew them into 2 towers, destroying 3 buildings in the process. That's the conspiracy theory there.
Well, yeah, there's that, and then there's also, like, explosives and others. I don't know. I'd have to look into a lot of it again. I'm still undecided about 9/11, but there's a conspiracy that Assange was, like, working. That's basically the whole WikiLeaks. God, I'm autistic today. That the whole WikiLeaks thing was kind of a government psyop to begin with. Well, what do you think of that?
I think that's probably nonsense, and if it was, that he wouldn't have just spent 7 years living in an Ecuadorian embassy.
Yeah, I
think you're right about that.
And Chelsea Manning wouldn't have gone to prison and wouldn't be, as far as I'm aware, in jail right now for refusing to testify to a secret panel about things about which she had already testified. So I think the fact that the state is going after these people should serve as proof that it's not some kind of psyop orchestrated by the state. To me, that's nonsense.
I'd have to agree with that. I think there's a stronger preponderance of evidence just because of what you just said. How long is she in prison for? Because that was ballsy, I got to say. I'm not a fan of Chelsea/Bradley in general because he's kind of a communist scumbag, but he is ballsy, and she. About how long is she doing time for?
My understanding is that
it's 2 years at the most until the end of the trial or until she decides to start talking.
Right.
Which hopefully she's not going to do. So presumably 2 years at the most, which is a long time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For essentially pleading for her right to not incriminate herself. Now, the way they got around that was by saying, "Oh, well, we absolve you of all charges. Don't worry, we're not going to press any charges against you." What's the term they used for that? For some reason, I'm blanking on it.
Immunity?
Yeah, they offered her immunity in exchange for her testimony, which is a really screwed up way that the state gets people to speak about incriminating themselves without actually facing charges. It's a clever way of bypassing people's Fifth Amendment rights. But yeah, so the answer to your question is 2 years at the most.
Okay, I guess the way in which WikiLeaks was set up is that the servers were primarily out of the country, which is how it was able to operate. Am I correct in that assumption?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, I guess those conspiracies are dumb. I'll be sure to tell. Some of the anti-Zionist guys were talking about that. And you got to be careful what they...
We have to be way back in WikiLeaks' early days when it first got started. They were hosted on Amazon. And the U.S. government told Amazon to kick these guys off. Amazon did kick them off. WikiLeaks was down for a day, and that's when they moved out of the country, and they've been hosted elsewhere ever since.
Interesting. Yeah, you guys are more knowledgeable about that than me. Okay, next topic real quick. What I was too drunk all those times to say. Really quickly, I'm not trying to beat another dead horse here.
Are you referring to Monday night with Aria Uncensored?
Oh, that was fun.
Is that what you're referring to, though?
Fun. Kind of, yeah.
Answer the question. Are you building off of something that you mentioned then? That's what I'm trying to find out.
Yeah. What's with the hostility?
You were dancing around that question.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't dancing in Hailfire, Mississippi like somebody.
What?
No,
okay.
I wasn't. I was just too drunk to understand half of what you were saying, but I understood most of it. Real quickly, it's just that, there are conflicting studies, that's all, and they're significantly conflicting. So real quick, the Essen Institute study found that, 75% of the post-op trans were happy overall for a period of several years, but then the PLOS studies in Spreaker, done over about 20 years, found that the suicide rates of these people, or the suicidal thoughts and unhappiness, in some cases were up to 20 times higher, or 95% in some cases. That's all. That's what I meant to say.
Well, I'm not terribly surprised. I think you actually said this on Aria Uncensored, the next episode of which will be airing Tuesday night at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on dlive.lrn.fm. I will be topless for those who want to watch it.
Fap. Next beard. Go ahead.
What? Anyway, I'm not a fan of sexual reassignment surgery. I think it's, to each their own. If somebody wants to do it, I'm not going to attempt to use the state to prevent them from doing it. But I will attempt to talk anyone who is considering it out of going through with it, because it is the removal of all sexual pleasure for the rest of their lives. That, to me, is idiotic.
That's not entirely true, though, because I think I might know more about that nasty surgery than you, just from having studied it and having known a few trans women back when I hung out in the
I sincerely doubt that you know more about transsexualism than I do. But but I was asked by G Vero on DLive, that's dlive.lrn.fm, when's the topless episode? It will be Tuesday night, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right after Free Talk Live. So if you would like to listen, that's the best way to do it. But yes, Rev, I self-medicated through my research when I began taking spironolactone and estrogen. These were topics I had to know inside and out in order to pursue them in a safe way, without any doctor approval or endocrinologist approval or anything like that. I'm
sure.
I have, in fact, looked into sexual reassignment surgery, not as something about which, not as something I would want to pursue, but as, a lot of people consider it to be the final stage of transsexualism, and that you're not really transsexual until you get that surgery, right?
Yes.
So I have looked into it, and, you said something about turning the nerve endings inside out or something like that on the last episode of Aria Uncensored. Yeah. And medical science has not reached that point. Not by a really long stretch. We're going to be back with more of this discussion. We don't bring it up. We have never brought it up. Other people call and chat and bring up transsexualism.
Yeah, it's not us. We were having a nice day talking about Julian Assange, and this happened.
This is the Call to Freedom. We'll be right back. Oh, welcome back. This is the Rational Review.
Not quite.
This is the Call to Freedom. Sorry, I opened this up with the intention of, talking about the Rational Review, and it just stuck out right in front of me. This is not the Rational Review. This is the Call to Freedom, but I want to tell you about the Rational Review, which is a news digest located at rationalreview.com that aggregates stories from all over the internet that are of interest to libertarians and liberty-minded people. They have podcasts, videos, blogs, and news articles, and are now a source for people to receive the Call to Freedom's podcasts. So be sure to check them out at rationalreview.com to stay up to date on all the happenings in the wider world. Now, we're joined now by telephone by Rev, who is called into the show frequently, and he has some thoughts on the topic of transsexualism. So, Rev, would you like to go further into, because you seem to think that after a sexual reassignment surgery, a person can have sexual pleasure. And now, look, I'm not saying that they won't feel anything or anything like that. But the reason that sexual pleasure is generally so intense is because of an abundance of nerve endings. And those are not there after a sexual reassignment surgery.
I'm sure they're largely not there. All I'm saying is that there are, again, conflicting accounts. For the most part, they seem to be able to feel significantly, like Isis King, for instance, from the old Tyra Banks show. That was a trans, and she had the SRS. Even Jonna Steele,
well,
who was one of the early trannies. Huh?
Hold on. Don't throw out a bunch of examples and keep me from explaining, because we were also asked by Smitty, what about the prostate? That's certainly true. A post-op trans person does not have their prostate removed, so they will certainly continue feeling sensations there. And again, you feel it when you drink bleach and erode away your esophagus. So obviously, it's a bit more nuanced than just a bunch of nerve endings on the genitalia, right? But it's certainly true that while they may feel something, it's going to be more like being on anesthetic and getting dental work done than it would be like, a typical sexual act. Yeah,
I mean, we're in agreement that it's for the vast majority of people, it's just a disgusting, unnecessary procedure.
I don't find it to be disgusting.
Well, I think it. I mean, look at what you're buying some rich butthole doctor another Corvette. You know what I'm saying? Like, you go to Thailand and probably get it for 10 G's, or Mexico for like 8 G's. But the point is, like, here it's like 30
is it
to
the
50.
Cost that bothers you?
It's everything about it is monstrous and horrific. We're collaborating with madness, like the old. Who was the old famous Johns Hopkins doctor who said that when they didn't do that for
Are you collaborating with madness? Is it collaborating with madness when I go to get my nipples pierced? Or my eyebrow pierced? Or to get a new tattoo?
Technically, as somebody who also has a few piercings and tattoos, technically it's decorative mutilation, but it's nowhere near the scale of mutilation as inverting one's genitalia try to be something. To try to be something chromosomally that you'll never... Look, do I think, it should be banned everywhere and be illegal everywhere? No, I'm not that much of a statist, but I agree. I would try to talk anybody out of it. Like, look at Jazz Jennings when her Aria got infected. I'm going to vomit up my Chick-fil-A. I don't eat there very much.
Do vaginas often make you vomit?
No, there you play your little card again. Yeah, I wanted to touch on that real quick before I go, too. But, Jazz Jennings' stuff got all infected. She's fine now. And by the way, her parents are J.WS's. Funny coincidence. So really what this is a lot of rich buttholes. Oh, yeah, because there's no correlation there at all, right? Like with World Jewish Congress and Jerusalem Post praising transgenderism and SRS specifically. Anyway, the whole thing is it's mostly rich buttholes that have money to throw away on this stuff, and they try to get. What about a midget or a little person, right? Think about that. Whatever they like to be called, midgets, little people, dwarves, right? These people will never be the same height as us normal people. I mean, they don't kill themselves. They're not. I'll never be 6 foot. I'm going to kill myself. How come nobody feels bad? We only have to feel bad for the trannies. What about some girl who's a prostitute in Brazil right now in a favela who was forced by her family getting raped and beaten by men? Nobody feels bad for that cis girl. You know what I'm saying?
Hold on, plenty of people feel bad for that cis girl.
Here, nobody even knows about it or cares.
How do you make that assertion? Like Drew Carey of The Price is Right, when he was in Brazil, he found this waitress who had been damaged in these sorts of ways, and he brought her back to the United States, paid for her to get a bunch of reconstructive surgery, and now she's one of the girls on his show.
Well, Drew Carey's a good guy, but he's the outlier. I'm just saying, if you're going to feel bad for people, would you not agree that most people only feel, and look, I'm guilty of it too. I feel like if something happens to somebody of let's just say a different group that I don't value as much as another group, I'm guilty of it too. But you never hear these leftists and these social justice people and all that talking about.
And we've talked about that extensively because for them, it's ultimately a matter of just playing the victim. That's all they want. That's why they focus on the trans bathroom thing instead of the trans prison thing, right?
Right.
Because they can claim, whether it's true or not, because it's such a relatively common thing that nobody's going to dispute it, they can claim that they were refused access to a particular bathroom, so they had to go outside and pee into a water bottle. It was just so dehumanizing and degrading. But the average person cannot claim to have been thrown into a male prison while being male to female and just being raped 2,000 times. So obviously, it's all about playing the victim to these people.
I mean, if you've committed such horrible acts like you've raped and mutilated other people, I think you deserve to be raped, but a lot of them haven't.
I don't believe in eye for an eye justice, Rev.
Yeah, I know. That's why you still have that idealistic libertarianism coursing through your veins, sadly.
Well, it's because I'm an advocate of love and peace and forgiveness. And eye for an eye justice achieves none of those things.
Well, I mean, not for, BS, idealistic ideas like that, but for actual pragmatic ruling the world kind of Nietzschean stuff. Eye for an eye works just fine. And
Nietzsche would not agree that eye for an eye works just fine. Nietzsche was an advocate of competition first and foremost, and we know now psychologically, and we didn't know it during Nietzsche's time, but we know that rewarding good behavior is a superior method of altering someone's behavior than punishing bad behavior. And what our justice system ultimately does is punish bad behavior versus the free market, which rewards people for doing things that the masses of people have decided to be positive and good things. So Nietzsche, absolutely, if he was alive today and he had the information and the psychological information that we have today, he would absolutely be a free market anarchist.
Did Nietzsche advocate might makes right, or did the Nazis interpolate that?
Nietzsche's sister was a Nazi. After he died, she took a lot of his unpublished works and she rewrote them to say things that she wanted them to say. And because of that, Nietzsche himself ended up with strong ties to Nazism that are ultimately not true. He was an evolutionist, sure. He was an advocate of natural selection and competition and things like that. And his sister applied that sort of reasoning to her Nazi ideology, saying, oh, well, the white race is superior, so evolutionarily we need to, kill the Jews or whatever insanity. Right. I don't know because I've never read her. Yeah. I've never read her particular distortions of Nietzsche.
I really don't want to.
No. But
you're much more educated on that particular guy and his ideology than me. So before I get off here, just real quick, is Ian not worried about the channel getting flagged like that butthole Jacklonus showing you topless? I reported him, by the way, just for the heck of it, just to do what he does to us. It was fun.
All right, well, thank you for the call,
Rev.
Rev.
Was just trolling, I think.
Well, I think he probably did actually report us.
I'm sure he did.
I'm sure that Twitch took one look at this and went, okay, here's a trans person topless. Nope.
Yep, not touching this.
Nope, and they just walked away.
Pole.
No, and I don't blame them. Sure, there's some concern, but it doesn't appear to be major. We'll be back. Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom, and maybe you want to have sex with cops, with prostitutes, and then arrest them.
No.
There I was talking about how on the game I was, and now I just totally dropped the ball twice, each time coming back from various segments. Oh, maybe you want to have sex with prostitutes and then arrest them, or bust people for drugs and then sell the drugs on the side for a nice little bonus. Well, if you've ever wanted to enjoy the power rush of being a cop without all the paperwork, then you should try the Thin Blue Line game, which you can find at thinbluelinegame.com. It's the only card game in the world that allows you to shoot someone over a broken taillight and escape accountability with the magical phrase, I feared for my life. So go get it now at thinbluelinegame.com. Assault and battery is not included, but for a limited time, you can order your copies and use the coupon code CTF to have all shipping costs waived. So go get it. That's thinbluelinegame.com. And before Rev called to discuss transsexualism, We were asked previously, we were actually asked a number of different things because we have 3 different chats going on right now, and I would really love a utility that combines them all into one place.
Oh, that would be lovely. It would, well, I'd love to just have one chat, but, what can you do? We've got 3, 4, 5, 12 different platforms now. And
well, 3, technically.
3 at least.
We have YouTube, Twitch, and
Twitch,
DLive.
DLive. And then we've got, all those have a chat, and then Discord has its own chat.
Yeah, I don't even watch
there,
the
though.
Discord chat any longer, though. I mean, because the on-air room there, it's so rarely related to anything that we're discussing.
Yeah, they just talk about their own thing, and sometimes they're not even listening.
I mean, that's totally fine. That's what the Discord is there for, but that's discord.lrn.fm. Of course, we take calls via Discord. You can sign in there and, do all of that kind of stuff. Totally lost my train of thought there, but
you were talking
to get back to the question we're asked, somebody asked, who reported us? And presumably why they reported us. Well, we were reported Monday night on the debut episode of Aria Uncensored. Now, that's the show that I'm doing. Really got to get a co-host for it because it's really hard to just talk for 2 hours with nobody to bounce things off of. But it's uncensored. Of course, here on Call to Freedom, we are censored by FCC regulations. So there are certain things we can't say. But on Aria Uncensored, I'm unleashed.
All that goes out the window.
Yeah, and I can say anything I want. And so can callers for the most part, with the exceptions that they can't be openly racist and things like that. Or they can be openly racist, just like Rev there talking about the Jews or whatever, but they have to actually be making a point. They can't just call in and shout a bunch of racial slurs and things like that.
Yeah, doesn't stop some people from trying, but...
But this jerk named Draclonus was demonstrably sexist in the Twitch chat. He was not transphobic. Rev is accusing him of being transphobic. He was not transphobic. In fact, he was completely accepting of my transsexualism. So much so that he said my female nipples violated Twitch's policies. Which is not true, in fact, because Twitch makes no distinction whatsoever between male and female nipples. What Twitch bans is nudity. And they never did anything about the cast of Free Talk Live being shirtless throughout the summer. So if they were to do something now, it would be systemic sexism on their part.
Yep.
And, it also comes into factor that I am trans. Look, if I was Twitch or Amazon, I'd just be like, no, I'm not touching this.
Not with a 10-foot pole.
But he did report it, and no, it went nowhere. And
have we seen him back since then?
We have not. I imagine he will, but I bet he will be back Tuesday night. The debut episode was on Monday because we were still throwing out ideas and things like that. Regularly, it will be on Tuesday evenings, right after Free Talk Live. It's fun. Definitely tune in. It's not as long as Call to Freedom. I'm not sure whether or not I'm going to do each episode inebriated like I was this past Monday. It was nerve-wracking. The best part of the whole thing is like in the first 3 minutes where I just, there on camera, take off my shirt and bra. Yep. like it's not even a thing.
And then grab your glass of wine.
Yep. And then because I needed it at that point. Because
you chugged that thing down.
Dude, it was stressful. It was surprisingly stressful. And I'm not exactly a bashful person, but I found that to be stressful. But yes, the big news today is that Julian Assange has been arrested, and it appears that he was not particularly cooperative with the authorities and forced them to carry him out.
Yes, they did.
Which I don't blame him for doing one bit. These people came and kidnapped him, and he knows that nothing good is going to come of this, so why would he go willingly? But yeah, the optics of him being carried out while screaming, apparently it does not look good for him.
Yeah, it doesn't really look good for him.
Of course, the United States government is thrilled about this, I'm sure. They finally have their claws on this guy. Who
they're not going to let go.
Hillary has joked, it would seem,
about
Hillary
drone
bombing
to drone
him.
the guy.
Yeah. according to police, hold on, because it just went away, Julian Assange has today been further arrested on behalf of the United States authorities.
Yep, for extradition.
This is an extradition warrant under Section 73 of the Extradition Act. So it's not just, he didn't want to be arrested by the United Kingdom government because he knew they would turn him over. It's that arresting him to turn him over was the point from the start. And of course, we knew that.
Yeah.
And he knew that. But that they were...
we knew that since he went into the embassy in 2010.
Yeah, he never stood a chance. That's certainly true. From the moment Sweden was like, oh, yeah, we found this random chick and paid her some money, and now she's saying that, she was sexually assaulted by Julian Assange, so we need to arrest him.
Yep.
And we totally won't extradite him to the United States. We promise this isn't politically motivated.
Oh, no, it's not.
But it absolutely was, and Julian Assange has now been arrested. Now, apparently it has triggered a debate from CNN and people like that who are suddenly pissed at Assange because, oh no, he didn't like their Queen Hillary, even though he was their hero back during the Bush era, during the original WikiLeaks era.
Oh my, WikiLeaks didn't have a political side?
They did not.
That's unforgivable.
Well, yeah, and it's really glaring that during the Bush administration, Republicans hated him and Democrats loved him.
Yep.
And then during the Hillary campaign, the Democrats hated him and the Republicans loved him.
Yeah, and Trump even said, even had nice words to say in a tweet.
And of course now Trump wants to arrest the guy.
Yeah, Trump wants his head on a stick.
But the debate has been spanning a decade, apparently, and now it's being kicked into high gear. Is Julian Assange a villainous hack, working in concert with countries that regularly squash a free press? Or is he a symbol of freedom of speech and the public's right to know? Well, I would say that there is no debate, right?
Yeah, I mean, this one's pretty clear cut.
Yeah. He is absolutely a symbol of freedom of speech. He is an attention whore, and I have said negative things about him in the past, and I will continue to. But it has no impact on my political stance on this, which is that his being arrested is a violation of it. It heralds the death of the official death of the protection of the press and freedom of the press, I would argue.
Mm. Yeah, well, the U.S. has been trying to kill the freedom of the press here ever since we've had it. So.
Yeah, and it's certainly been made easier because of things like CNN, Fox News, NBC, and all of these huge media companies that are ultimately just owned by like 4 larger super corporations.
Right.
Like I found out last night, because I didn't even know this, I found out last night that Disney owns Fox.
Yeah, Disney bought Fox a while back.
Yeah, I did not know that. And that just further strengthens Disney's hold on your information.
On American culture.
Yeah, because Fox itself owned other media outlets.
And so does Disney.
Yeah, and that seems to be how things are going with these super corporations just buying various outlets and either crushing them or just peddling the narratives, because we know that, journalists have been fired for saying things that their editors-in-chiefs didn't want them to say. So freedom of speech is dead in practice, if not in writing. But I think that this is going to see it, and this isn't the first time. Abraham Lincoln, of course, was notorious for going after journalists who had negative things to say about him and editors who allowed negative things to be said about him. So this is not new. And it's just a further cementing of the fact that freedom is dead and we killed it. Welcome back. This is The Call to Freedom. I am your host, as always, Aria of Aria Uncensored, which airs Tuesday nights at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on twitch.lrn.fm and dlive.lrn.fm, where I am totally uncensored, unleashed, and unclothed. I mean, they wouldn't know anyway whether or not I was wearing a skirt and underwear. But no, I'm just topless.
The camera doesn't get that angle.
No, thank goodness. And I'm joined in the studio today by
Michael Hampton from BitcoinHistory.com, and very much wearing clothes.
As am I. It's a little chilly out there once the sun goes down. It felt great earlier.
Well, yeah.
But it's a little chilly now. Of course, it's time now for something that we haven't gotten into often or lately, and that would be the Libertarian Drama of the Week.
Oh, my.
Now, this is brought to you by Jonathan Dunker, who is one of our patrons over on Patreon. You can find that at patreon.com/call-to-freedom. The drama here, it's so stupid.
It usually is.
It is. That's true. And this time it's the Free State Project just going full potato and making me go, okay, nope, I am done with this imbecilic organization. Now, not that I've ever been associated with the Free State Project. I'm not here in New Hampshire because of the Free State Project. I'm here because of Free Keene, I guess, technically, but not the Free State Project.
I signed the Free State Project pledge, and I came here because of it. Then after the thing happened with Free Talk Live and Porcfest a few years ago, I was done with the Free State Project.
And that is what this is related to. And it's not my business to state the source of this, right? But I guess I kind of have to fill people in. So Ian, being a good person who doesn't hold grudges against the Free State Project for their idiocy and their terrible administration, not to say anything negative about Roger Paxton, who is a friend of mine and who I've worked with in the past. He's a great guy. He's the head of the board of directors or something like that, but he's not a tyrant. He's not fully in control. The Free State Project is an organization that just sort of does its own thing, whether he likes it or not. So Ian, as I was saying, being a nice and generous guy, sent them some Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash. I don't know which.
Right.
And they got really upset about it.
What?
Yes.
How do you...
Apparently, some of the volunteers were deeply uncomfortable that this happened. And
why?
They are in the process of attempting to return the money. So they refused a donation from someone who I consider to be a friend with whom I have a personal and professional relationship.
Yeah.
That, to me, suggests that I don't want anything to do with these people. If I had to choose, I guess what I'm getting at, between the Free State Project and Ian, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. If you want to make me make that choice, well, I already made it. Goodbye, Free State Project.
Well, I was still intending to broadcast Call to Freedom from Porcfest this year, just like we did last year. And I was going to do at least one other event. I was going to host a seminar about building togetherness through individualism. It was going to be really awesome. But as soon as all of this went down, I emailed the guy and said, look, my apologies. Things have just come up. I'm not going to be attending Porcfest this year, and I will instead be attending Forkfest, which is which is sort of the same thing, except it's decentralized and it's not run by the Free State Project. I don't know who.
Nobody's running it.
Well, somebody organizes it, right? Somebody bought Forkfest.party. Somebody set up the Telegram.
Yeah.
So somebody is organizing it.
Somebody's doing some minimal organization, but they're not like trying to tell you what you can and can't do.
No. And of course, Ian is more than welcome to be there, and I will be there for Forkfest. I mean, I wasn't really looking forward to Porcfest this year anyway, because have you ever seen the SpongeBob meme with him having his arm wrapped around Patrick or whatever and just grinning stupidly and Patrick looking miserable, and it's saying something like, introverts don't make friends, they just get adopted by extroverts.
Right.
Well, that was me and Will. I mean, he would almost literally drag me around Porcfest, meeting to people, socializing with people. That's not something I do of my own accord.
Right. Yeah. I'm not big on that either. I mean, I know how to do it, and I do it, but
I don't.
It's not a big thing.
Do it. Left to my own devices, I will go back to the hotel room and mess around on my computer or my phone for 6 hours, and then return the next day to do my broadcast, and then leave again. Because if I have friends there, I will socialize with those friends. But as far as, just meeting people and all of that, no, It's not my thing. So I wasn't really feeling going anyway, since Will isn't going to be there, and since I was evidently going to be the only host of Call to Freedom there, which meant that I would have to go out every single day and socialize and find somebody to co-host the show with me that day, or to be a guest or whatever, which I sort of had to do last year, but Will picked up part of that, and we were doing a food tent and a T-shirt tent and all of these other things, so people came to us. So I wasn't looking forward to it already. Plus, I don't sleep in tents.
Yeah. You have to have your hotel room, huh?
Yeah. Well, because I have to take my cats.
Oh.
I didn't take them the first time I went to Porcfest. I instead just entrusted a family member to go by my house and feed them and scoop out the litter box and all of that. It happened once the entire time I was gone from Porcfest.
Okay.
When I got back home, the litter box was just filled. They hadn't been fed, and the cats were traumatized by my absence. Because it's a mutually codependent relationship. It really is, and people just don't get it. But those 10 days of me being gone, they didn't come near me for like 3 days after that, because they were just so shaken by the entire experience. So it ultimately proved to be less traumatic for them to get thrown into my car and driven to New Hampshire. Which, of course, isn't the first time that's happened with them. They rode with me to Las Vegas and back as well.
Yeah.
So they hated it. They hated the Vegas trip. They didn't mind the New Hampshire trip, because while we were leaving Memphis, right, this was like 45 minutes into my 18-hour drive, they broke their cat carrier.
Oh, God.
And from that moment forward, they just sort of wandered through the car. They were really good. They understood that this was an extremely dangerous situation, and they couldn't be jumping on the dashboard and things like that. They seemed to have some kind of sense of how tense it made me. Mm-hmm. But they were very cool about it. Jungle Bunny would just sort of climb into my lap and would just sit there being extremely still until he was ready to go elsewhere. And then he would just go to the back. And I've got pictures of it because it was that wild. They broke out of their cat carrier, just went into the back seat, climbed onto a pillow, and did nothing. They didn't meow. They just listened to me and my music, and it was... And then, good God, the drive to Porcfest. Oh, my God. I got to Vermont, and my phone died. My phone, being my GPS, it had problems in that it would only charge wirelessly in the first place. But it seemed to be fine, right? It actually got broken at Porcfest. But then suddenly... The previous year, it got broken at Porcfest, but then suddenly it wouldn't charge.
That's a big problem when you're using the GPS.
Yeah, right after I missed a turn in Vermont and was trying to pull it up to find out where I was, that 1% dropped to 0%. And I ended up driving around Vermont, rural Vermont.
Oh, my.
For about 2.5 hours trying to find somebody who could give me directions to Lancaster, New Hampshire. And I ultimately wasn't able to find anyone, so I said, direct me to Keene, and I will figure things out from there. But finally, somebody was able to point me back to the highway, because the roads in Vermont, I don't know if people have driven a lot there, but there are a lot of evergreen trees everywhere.
Yep.
And a lot of these roads are like back roads, as we would call them in Mississippi, and they're just surrounded on all sides, so there's nowhere for you to get up and get a vantage point to see where you're at spatially. Once you're out there in those trees, you are out there in those trees. And if your phone dies, you're just lost.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I was lost in Vermont with a dead phone for several hours. And of course, Will is freaking out because the last thing he heard from me was that I was lost. And then my phone died, and I stopped responding to his messages and answering his calls. But the cats were totally fine with it. They didn't care. They had food and water and their cat box back there and laying down on pillows and sleeping. This is the Call to Freedom. We'll be back in just a moment to discuss more things. Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom. As always, you're invited to give us a call. That number is 603-283-6160. Again, that's 603-283-6160. Or you can use the Discord call-in lines, which you can find at discord.lrn.fm. Now, there's not a lot more that we can really say about Julian Assange. It's stupid that he's been arrested, but it was probably inevitable from the moment that he was trapped in an embassy.
Yeah, there was no way for him to really get out of that. I'm not sure why he went in there in the first place instead of, like, I don't know, leaving the country.
Well, I imagine it was far more difficult for him to leave the country. That certainly would have been the better bet at this point. Edward Snowden appears to be doing relatively fine in Russia.
Yeah, he's gotten along. I mean, it's not ideal for him, but I know he didn't really want to be there. But
no, but he's not confined to an embassy, and he's not now being led away in shackles by the police.
Right.
It's tragic, it's stupid, it's terrible, and it should not be happening, but I'm not terribly surprised that it is. But Michael brought in another story that we wanted to get into yesterday, but ended up talking about other things, like the Secret Service and Democrats in 2020, because we had actually a lot of questions on dlive.lrn.fm.
Yeah, they just peppered us with questions like half the show.
But Perez Hilton, notorious FAG, has outed Sultan of Brunei's son after the country enacts a new law that would stone gay people. So apparently the Sultan's son is gay.
So it seems.
And either has told this to Perez Hilton or, more likely, slept with him.
Yeah, probably the latter.
But the son is fourth in line to the throne, and he has been outed as a gay man, according to LGBTQ Nation, after his father enacted Sharia law in the country. And again, no longer being a Muslim show, but having been a Muslim show for a long period of time under the tutelage of Will Coley, that is not Sharia law. Sharia law is something that one opts into, not has forced upon them. And that's also the case with Christianity and Christian law, as Tom Gray pointed out when he was on here. And that's where Christians primarily go wrong with judging people for being unchristian or being gay or being transsexual or anything like that. It's like, look, these people have not opted to follow our particular laws. You have to leave them be to follow their own laws, or you are violating our laws. But the punishment in Brunei now for homosexuality is death from stoning, which is a horrible way to die.
That I don't even know how that works.
Well, historically they buried you in the ground up to your neck. And then they threw stones and rocks at you until you died.
Oh, my. That is pretty bad.
I would guess that today they no longer go through the process of burying people and instead just chain them up or something equally horrific. But yeah, just the idea of being pelted with stones and rocks until you die from it is absolutely horrifying. Not to mention, you have to have people who are willing to do it. And it's alarming that there are enough people willing to do this, that it can even continue to exist as a penalty.
Well, they're human beings. Of course they're willing to do it.
Yeah, but one would hope. Yes, GPM Kadam, we do read the chat. It is not pre-recorded. We are live right now. How would it be pre-recorded? Can you how could you go about I guess you could. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
vMix does support uploading a video into the feed.
Do. I mean, yeah, I suppose you could do it. And there's the rare occasions when we can't make it in and have to do a repeat, but you wouldn't see that on DLive.
Well, the stream would still be live because it would be Jazzy Cam.
Right, okay, so you just see the dog.
Yeah, and she would be live, and she's such a cute dog, so Jazzy Cam is awesome.
But if you tune in at the very top of the show, we will tell you what the day is, and if you say something in chat, we very well may respond to it.
Yeah, I do read the chat. When there's direct questions related to something that we discuss or that we're interested in, we will answer those questions.
Yes, this is really happening.
Apparently, I'm a transgender satanic hologram. I have to admit, that's the first time I've been called that. Julian Assange did not need to be arrested. He needs to be set free, and he needs to be free to reveal the horrifying things that the United States government, like most people haven't even seen the the video that got WikiLeaks worldwide coverage in the first place.
Collateral Murder. That's the name of the video.
I didn't know it had a name.
Yep.
I know that
you can look up Collateral Murder and you can watch it right now.
I know that some Marines recently who had been tasked with filming things for the Marine Corps had compiled the information into a documentary and were in the process of releasing that. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember what its name is.
Yeah, I don't know what the documentary is called.
They covered that on Free Talk Live. But yeah, the video, and I don't remember the details of it now, but I seem to recall it's basically just them in a helicopter firing indiscriminately.
Yeah, pretty much
at people.
They fired at a couple of Reuters journalists and killed them, and then they fired at an ambulance. They fired at emergency responders. They fired at a guy that was trying to save someone's life.
Yeah, so it was just widespread murder. And Julian Assange got his hands on it. It was like, the world needs to see this, and published it. And that made the Bush administration very unhappy.
Oh, yes.
Then, of course, there was the Chelsea Manning leak, which further embarrassed... Was that the Obama administration?
Yeah, that would be Obama.
Yeah, which, of course, made Democrats hate Julian Assange, while Republicans suddenly liked him. And then there was his siding with against. I don't want to say he was ever a Trump supporter because I don't think he was. No. But he certainly didn't want Hillary. And I don't blame him. Hillary was pretty clear in her desire to go to war with Russia. She even said it outright in one of her debates with Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was the second one. It was the one where they just sort of grabbed microphones and walked around the podium. It was really jarring. She certainly said with a straight face that landing troops in Russia was what she wanted to do. So she was beating the drums of war, without a doubt.
Oh, yeah. And the Democrats were eating it up.
Yeah. And what we know now is that we were ultimately tasked with choosing between war with Russia and war with China. Trump, of course, was no fan of China even during the election, but he never said, oh, by the way, I'm going to make sure that tensions rise in the South China Sea, which, according to one of the people who called in a few weeks ago, isn't actually an unfair thing to say, because the Chinese are being aggressive, according to this particular caller, and I still haven't looked into it.
Yeah, so I've heard they are moving,
but they seem to be trying to isolate Japan and its ability to receive overseas shipping.
Those countries have been enemies for centuries.
Yeah. But Hilton has alleged that Prince Azim is gay in a video that he uploaded to YouTube. I wonder if he's going to be joining D-Live. You can watch us live over there at dlive.lrn.fm. We're going to tell you more about Notorious FAG in just a moment. Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom here on LRN.FM, broadcast as always from the Liberty Radio studio. And I'd like to invite you to check out our social media. You can find us on Facebook by using @CallToFreedom. You can find us on Twitter by using @CTF_LRN.FM. Just CTF_LRN.
I think that's right.
That is like at least the third time since coming from a break. There is also Mastodon. You can find us there using @CallToFreedom. You can join our Discord at discord.lrn.fm. You can watch us on Twitch at twitch.lrn.fm and on DLive at dlive.lrn.fm. Basically, just go to lrn.fm and you can find all kinds of cool stuff. Rev, I am not sending you a picture of my gun. I don't know why you keep asking.
Which gun?
But I'm not doing it. Well, I no longer have my shotgun. I left it in Mississippi.
Oh, shotgun. Okay.
Well, he's not asking. He's asking for the picture of my .38, and he's not getting that.
Why?
I don't know.
Have you never seen a 38 before?
Because he's totally not gay. Because he's a manly man who does manly things.
Oh, okay. It's your other gun that he wants to see.
I hope not. That one is certainly not a 38.
No.
Nor a snub nose.
No.
Anyway, so worldwide outrage mounts and calls to boycott the Sultan's chain of luxury hotels and airlines. Hilton alleged that Prince Azim is gay in a video that he uploaded to YouTube. The young royal has frequently been photographed with queer celebrities like Caitlyn Jenner and Gus Kenworthy. I've never heard of Kenworthy.
Yeah, I don't know who Gus Kenworthy is.
I know who Caitlyn Jenner is, and I don't think she qualifies as queer, but she might. After blowback from activists, Kenworthy deleted a photo that he had uploaded to social media of the two of them together at a party hosted by the prince. So I'm going to say, yeah, he is probably a bit gay.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Azim, known for his lavish parties with celebrity-studded guest lists where the booze flows freely, despite also being banned under the law. That is not a complete sentence, LGBTQ nation. His brother, Prince Jeffrey, is also reportedly hedonistic, and adultery would be his fatal sin. It's very similar sounding to Saddam Hussein's sons, both of which who engaged in a fair bit of hedonism that was against their laws. Both men would be put to death under their father's law.
I wonder if they will.
Y'all know I don't out people anymore, Perez said in the video. I used to do that back in the day, but I'm making an exception here. What kind of a person outs people? I understand outing Prince Azim in this particular context, but who just outs people? That's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, doing this could possibly put his life in danger, but at the same time...
Well, I understand outing Prince Azim. You know, if his life is in danger, it's his father's fault.
Right. At the same time, I can't imagine that his father didn't already have a suspicion.
Yeah, but I mean, just outing people more generally, the idea of it that, hey, this person is gay, and I'm going to tell the whole world about it. It's appalling.
Yeah, you shouldn't be doing that.
Any respect I had for Perez Hilton absolutely just vanished. That he even used to do that back in the day. I know of lots of people, especially when I came out as trans, a lot of people messaged me telling me they were actually bisexual or that they occasionally liked cross-dressing or whatever. I've never told any of these people's secrets to anyone.
No.
Because it's not morally right to out people like that.
It's not your place to go out somebody. It's their decision.
Yep. But I'm guessing the Sultan of Brunei doesn't know that his son, Prince Azim, is a big old homo. I would know because I have spent time with Prince Azim.
Oh, so Gus Kenworthy is an Olympic champion skier.
Okay. It's so hypocritical. This guy's son is a big flamer, and now he's enacted a law to stone gay people to death. So he went the full distance. What I'm hearing from this is that Perez Hilton had sex with him, and happens to know for a fact that he's gay. Because
absolute fact.
That is kind of something that gay people do.
Yeah, gay people have sex, just like everybody else.
Now, America is only somewhat concerned about the stoning law, which isn't a surprise because obviously, I'm an advocate of non-interventionism. I don't approve of this law, but the United States has no right to enforce its social standards or its laws onto another country. Brunei is its own country. If these laws work for it, as distasteful as I find them, I'm not going to attempt to tell them what they can and can't do. I would suggest to them that the initiation of violence against others is morally wrong, but they have a system in place that allows them to do it, just as we do here in the United States. The only disagreement we have with them is how they're using that violence. But the United Nations has condemned Brunei's law, which, again, would punish being gay with having rocks thrown at you until you die. But the U.S. has refused to condemn the law. Now, I condemn the law. I'm okay with that.
The U.S. government may have refused to condemn the law, but I will condemn the law. It is
terrible. a law that would increase the punishment of several crimes in Brunei, including thievery to cutting off people's hands. It's not just gay people. Although, coming from LGBTQ Nation, I'm not surprised that they focus primarily on the gay stuff.
Right.
But the United Nations has condemned the law, saying that human rights experts have expressed concerns about the cruel, inhuman, and degrading punishments contained in the Penal Code of Order. I appeal to the government to stop the entry into force of this draconian new penal code, which would mark a serious setback for human rights protections for the people of Brunei if implemented. The United States, though, was a bit more restrained, and this is probably the first time in human history that that's been said with a straight face. After being asked for comment several times by the Daily Beast, the State Department issued a statement saying that the U.S. is concerned with the law and that the punishments appear inconsistent with human rights law. The United States is concerned with Brunei's decision to implement phases 2 and 3 of the Sharia penal code. Some of the punishments in the law appear inconsistent with international human rights obligations, including with respect to court torture and other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment.
Oh, we're just concerned. We're going to sit here in our little Washington, D.C. office and be concerned.
Yeah, well, I mean, they can't really say a lot at the same time that our Supreme Court just said, okay, yeah, you can sort of inflict this unnecessary pain upon this individual who has this illness that is going to make lethal injection a horrifying way to die for him.
Yeah, well, that's, you elected Trump. That's
Well, I don't think Trump had much to do with it. Any Supreme Court justice that was a Republican, I think, probably would have cited the same.
Yeah, but hasn't he installed 2 of them already?
Well, he has, but any Republican would have. So I don't think Trump is really responsible for it. He was just putting in power the people that his base wanted him to put in power.
And this is what you get.
Yep, which is more statism. But that's essentially what they argued, that, this guy has this illness, sure, and it's going to cause all of these boils and pus-filled things to get bloody and to explode and have him drown in his own blood, but we're going to go ahead and do it anyway.
That's a perfectly acceptable way to die.
But while our government is doing that, it obviously has no standing whatsoever to say, you know what, throwing rocks at people until they die is probably a pretty bad way to die too.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too good. We're pretty concerned about this.
And neither is shooting at people from emergency vehicles as they attempt to help other people who have been shot by Marines. Also not a particularly pleasant way to die. Or any of the other ways that the United States government has killed so many people. Well, we're going to move on from this topic because other things are happening in the world, and they have to be discussed. So this is the Call to Freedom. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with those in just a moment. Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom. And one of the most important things that I've been wondering about today is what happened to Assange's cat.
Yes, Julian Assange actually had a cat in the Ecuadorian embassy.
He did have a cat. But the last time anybody saw pictures of it was in 2017. Now, him being arrested, my first thought was, because I didn't know he had a cat, but my first thought was, well, what happened to the kitty? So I Googled it and was pleasantly surprised to find that other people have already asked this question and have answers. So, being a cat person, you're going to have to bear with me while I tell you what happened to Julian Assange's cat. So it's an adorable little kitty for sure. But now that Assange has been arrested, there's an important question that begs answering. What happened to the cat? In case you need a refresher, the WikiLeaks founder got an adorable feline in 2016 to help pass the time while he was holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, where he had been for 5 years. Assange and the cat posted pictures on Twitter and Instagram under the handle @EmbassyCat. And here's one of the cute ones working on the counter-prevalence skills. God, I hate cat people.
Wait a minute. You have 2 cats.
I am, but I don't make stupid cat puns. counter-pervalence. Are you seriously? Are you kidding me? But they have several pictures of the cat, and it is absolutely adorable. It's a cute little kitty cat. But there haven't been any new photos since 2017, though, and it's unclear where the cat lives now. I've been asked on DLive why the mic is so close to our faces. It's because they are studio mics that are designed for that. That's literally the way they're designed. If I just back up just a little bit, as you will hear, the sound drops off dramatically. It's professional equipment, and that's the way it works. Yeah. I mean, that's by design. It's so that it doesn't pick up somebody who comes in and starts talking over there in the corner, and so that doesn't end up getting broadcast on the air. But anyway, in 2018, Assange was told he had to abide by new rules imposed by the Ecuadorian embassy, which included paying for and taking care of his cat. Assange reportedly freed the cat from its isolation to give it a healthier life, according to Italian newspaper La Repubblica. Writer James Ball said he offered to give the cat a home. I mean, who wouldn't have? Half the internet would have adopted this cat just because it's a cat. The other half would have adopted it because it was Julian Assange's cat. Yeah, that's true. But for the record, Julian Assange's cat was reportedly given to a shelter. Oh, God. Oh, no. By the Ecuadorian embassy ages ago. Yeah, I pulled up the Instagram feed, and the last photo was from 2017. Yeah. So it was a while ago. So don't expect a feline extradition in the next few hours, although I genuinely offered to adopt it. Yeah. I hope that somebody adopted this cat. I'm not a fan of shelters. Yeah, they don't tend to. Cats don't tend to do well in shelters. No animal does. And you can almost always find some person who is willing to take in an animal that you have cared for. Right. I would not. I mean, it's better than killing the cat, sure, but we don't know that they didn't. You know, I would like to see a picture of this cat alive and well. I know I'm messed up, but I'm more worried about the cat than I am Julian Assange. Julian Assange is not going. He's going to be treated with some sort of dignity. Maybe a little. The cat will be picked up by the back of its neck and thrown into a cage and carted off to a shelter where it may or may not get adopted and where it may or may not get put to death for existing, because that's what a lot of shelters do. But hopefully it was adopted, so that's what happened to Julian Assange's cat. The Ecuadorian embassy said, hey, you're going to have to start taking care of this cat. And he was like, I'm just going to put it up for adoption. Sounds kind of irresponsible on his part. Yeah, a little bit. Well, you know, if you can't take care of the cat, then yeah, giving it away is the right thing to do. Yeah, but why wasn't he taking care of it in the first place? Cats are not expensive. Cats don't require a lot of. They're not high maintenance. No, they're certainly not. He shouldn't have had any difficulty paying for and taking care of his cat. But evidently he was, and the Ecuadorian embassy got sick of it and said, you have to get rid of this animal or you have to start taking care of it. But so far, from what I've heard, and this would seem to substantiate that, Assange was really just a bad guest. That's what everybody has said. And these new rules imposed by the Ecuadorian embassy, like, hey, you have to start paying for your cat, are completely reasonable. They weren't demanding that he do unreasonable things. Oh, I hate autoplay so much. So I opened up a new tab to see the actual demands. Oh, my dear God, they called it Catgate. Because, of course, they did. Catgate? Yes. What? They called it Catgate. Coming to us from CNN, his stay, this is old, but his stay at the Ecuadorian embassy in London could finally be drawing to a close. Well, it certainly came to a close as he was dragged away in shackles looking like a raving lunatic. But hey, to each their own. 6 years, blah, blah, blah. We don't care about that. We don't care about that. The activist triumphantly praised Ecuador as the courageous Latin American nation that took a stand for justice. But the relationship has deteriorated over the years, and Ecuador's leadership has changed hands. So Assange has found himself in an increasingly precarious position. On Monday, an Ecuadorian judge rejected the WikiLeaks founder's legal action against the country's government, in which he claimed that the new asylum conditions imposed by the embassy were violating his fundamental rights. Judge Carla Martinez said Assange will have to obey a new set of house rules, which include paying for his own food, medical, and laundry bills, as well as cleaning up after himself and his cat.
That doesn't seem too unreasonable.
No, it's not. Assange, with a flowing snow-white beard and long shoulder-length hair, appeared before the judge in Ecuador's capital via video link from London. He claimed the new rules were a clear indication that Ecuador was trying to push him out, and accused President Lenin Moreno's government of preparing to revoke his asylum.
Well, he got that part right.
Yeah, but it may not have happened if he,
it might not have happened if he...
you say you've heard rumors that he wasn't allowed to shave and things like that.
Apparently that was wrong because, well, he's not... Is that right? Or is that wrong? Because it said he had a long flowing beard here.
Yeah. You said he was not permitted to shave. That would make sense with, if he wasn't allowed to shave, he would have a long flowing beard.
Yeah.
But I'm going to bet that it's not true and that he's just a lazy jerk who takes no care of himself whatsoever and just didn't want to shave. That's the sense I'm getting from all of this.
That very well could be.
He's not taking care of himself. He's not cleaning up after himself or his cat. So why would I expect him to shave? He probably hadn't showered in months. While Assange has previously said his position in the embassy was under threat, it is understood the relationship has degraded to the point where he believes he's being deliberately restricted so that he might choose to leave on his own. Hello, H.P. Lovecraft. But Ecuadorian Attorney General Inigo Salvador denied this last week. I got to see what the time frame is on this.
That sounds like it's from 2017.
No, it's October 31st, 2018.
Oh, okay.
So it's about 7 months old.
Yeah, it's about 6-7 months.
The new rules, the only restrictions that Mr. Assange has been imposed are the ones referring to the hygiene he needs to maintain inside the spaces we have accommodated for him and to look after his cat, as apparently it roams free through the offices. The new rules, seen by CNN and first published by Ecuadorian website Código Vidrio, stipulate that if the cat's welfare is not improved, the head of the embassy will request that Assange give the feline to another person or rehouse it. I don't know what to make of Assange right now. This is not good stuff to hear about anyone in any context.
No, it's not.
He evidently wasn't taking care of his cat. He was just letting it wander around, not feeding it, not cleaning himself. Apparently, he had his own hygiene issues.
Yeah, sounds like he wasn't taking care of himself either.
It sounds like he had given up on life, which isn't terribly surprising for somebody who was restricted to an embassy for 7 years. But it's also not good. Kicks for Guns is correct. It does sound like he's suffering from mental illness, which again, 7 years of relative isolation will do that. But having him escorted out of the embassy in shackles, screaming like a madman, certainly does not help that perception. This is the Call to Freedom. We're going to get more into this cat gate, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom. I am your host, as always, Aria DeMeso, author of Dancing in Hellfire, which you can find on Amazon by searching for Dancing in Hellfire. And I'm joined in the studio today by
Michael Hampton from BitcoinHistory.com.
And other news that's happened is that there is a Brexit delay, which is a surprise to nobody.
Yeah, that was coming somehow or other.
Oh, yeah. But apparently it's not making a lot of people happy, and it's rather longer than I would have expected. It goes on to like October, doesn't it?
UK and EU agree delay to 31 October. Yes.
But coming from Brussels, nobody trusts May, either at home or abroad. Her own cabinet is a breeding ground for rivals jousting to replace her, and in Brussels, diplomats discount her acumen and treat her as a problem to be solved, not a partner to work with.
Well, they are the UK is trying to leave the EU, and that makes her a problem.
Yeah. And so it was that British Prime Minister Theresa May returned to London on Thursday, faced with a barrage of questions about her political future after another Brexit-infused humiliation. The day before, May was forced by European Union leaders to accept a delay of up to 6 months for the Brits to extract themselves, once and for all, from the European Union. Now, getting meager credit for sparing her country the pain of a no-deal departure scheduled for the end of the week, had she not groveled in Brussels, she resumed her daily toil. Standing in front, that was a hell of a sentence.
Trying to herd cats in Parliament?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Standing in front of lawmakers in the House of Commons, she offered no new twists to her strategy as one ardent Brexiteer called her trip to the EU an abject surrender.
Abject surrender. Oh, my.
I mean, she kind of did. I know the whole country is intensely frustrated that this process to leave the EU has not been completed, May said Thursday, just hours after striking the early in the morning deal with her fellow EU leaders. I never wanted to seek this extension, and I deeply regret that we have not yet been able to secure agreement in this House for a deal that would allow us to leave in a smooth and orderly way.
No, there are people that don't want a smooth and orderly Brexit.
No, and there are people who don't want Brexit at all. And I would imagine that they comprise most of the political class.
And nobody seems to have a majority.
She said she would keep talking with the Labour Party about a compromise that could leave Britain more closely enmeshed with the EU than many Brexit advocates desire. She said that if those talks break down, she would put a series of alternatives to a vote. So Brexit advocates are not going to get what they want. They're going to remain pretty closely tied to the European Union, shocking to nobody. So if there is an actual Brexit, it will be in name only.
Pretty much.
And that's if they ever actually even do that. And I don't think that they will. It may be what they do as a workaround, in sort of the same way that the United States just sort of declared victory and left Vietnam.
Yeah,
she's just going to declare that they Brexited and continue going on about their lives. And she urged restive lawmakers newly freed from Brexit pressure and on the cusp of an Easter holiday to put their feet up and come back ready to bargain. When is Easter?
Easter is April 20, whatever the Sunday is.
This Sunday?
Not this Sunday, but the following Sunday.
Okay. I don't follow religious holidays, so I had no idea.
I actually had to look that up.
Acceding to a 6-month delay, we have again been asked about the microphone thing, this time on Twitch. Look, these are studio mics. They are designed to not pick people up when they are far away, so that if Ian, who is usually sitting back there, says something important, it's not going to get picked up by the mic.
This is professional grade stuff. This is not the stuff that most YouTubers use.
Yeah, this is not the headset microphone. But acceding to a 6-month delay, May really had no choice. Acceding gives God. That's
acceding. Is that what it says?
No. Well, acceding is how it's pronounced, but the sentence makes no sense the way they've broken it up. But acceding to a 6-month delay gives the Prime Minister some breathing room. That is how they should have said it.
That sounds better.
But it also raises new challenges for the weekend leader. She vowed that Britain would leave in an orderly Brexit on March the 29th, then May the 29th, now October the 31st. Rev, stop giving people ideas. We do take calls. You're invited to give us a call at 603-283-6160. Again, that's 603-283-6160.
Or drop into Discord.
You are not welcome to call about what Rev is suggesting you call in about.
What is he suggesting?
About what someone wants to do to me sexually.
Oh, come on.
As Prime Minister, you can do that on Aria Uncensored, which is a show I do on Tuesday nights at 10 o'clock p.m. on the same channel, where I am totally topless. You could call in and say that then. I'm not sure how long I would let it continue, but it would be funny. No, I don't think most people would actually listen to Rev, to be fair. But anyway, as Prime Minister, I am not prepared to delay any further than June 30th, May said last month. But now it appears that it's actually going to be Halloween, which is significantly past May the 30th.
That's quite a long way past May the 30th, yes.
She previously promised conservative lawmakers that Britain would not participate in European elections, but now it looks like they will.
Yeah, they'll still be around.
Will she resign? The conservative pro-Brexit lawmaker Bill Cash asked in an angry interchange with May.
Yeah, she did say she was going to step down in the next couple of months.
I don't know about that. They haven't mentioned it here. I think you know the answer to that, May snapped back, and the answer was no.
Of course it was. Now she's not going to step down.
But some of May's ex-backers appear to have sharpened their knives while she was busy in Brussels. The pressure on her to go will increase dramatically, I suspect, now after the deal, May's former Brexit secretary, David Davis, told the BBC. What an unfortunate name. David Davis.
Yeah, thanks, Mom.
He said he didn't think she could cling to power long past the May elections for the European Parliament, which he predicted would deliver an eruption of support for Eurosceptics. Yeah, probably. Well, I don't think that's correct at all. I think it's going to be a lot of Brexit skeptics. Chat on DLive Razorboy Gaming, who is one of our longtime listeners, is making jokes about ever been slapped in the face with a pie, says Aria while raising her right hand. It's very weird because it was mentioned on Twitch like at exactly that same time. Did I do something with my hand that particularly called attention to it?
I don't know. You're just kind of waving it around.
Well, my last name is DeMezzo. I'm obviously going to be talking with my hands when I talk. So.
Right. I don't know.
But I expect people who are anti-Brexit to actually come into power now that especially now that the actual Brexit has just been a complete and total farce. The Remainers will seize power. Now, look, we were right all along. This is a complete mess. It's really time to dial it back and to put this on the back burner. But many Tories fear an implosion in these elections. Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
An early warning light could come in May 2nd local elections in Britain, 3 weeks before those for the European Union's body. Conservatives' forecasts look gloomy in the locals, too, according to polls. I think it will be very difficult for her, Davis said. No, I'm actually not Italian. Rev is correct. That I don't think there's any Italian in me whatsoever. It's just funny. Some Europeans fear that in offering Britain 6 months, shorter than many leaders wanted, but longer than what French President Macron desired, they may have increased the chance of a no-deal Brexit.
Ooh.
Now, Parliament faces little immediate pressure to act, but Britain will not have enough time for a full rethink of its Brexit approach, including a second referendum or a general election. So, yeah, I think it's just ultimately going to come down to just Brexit not happening.
Yeah, eventually they're just going to call the whole thing off.
Yeah, and I think that's what the powers that be in the United Kingdom actually want. This is the Call to Freedom. Don't go anywhere. We're going to get deeper into this discussion in just a moment.
That's what the people there want, too.
Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom. You're invited to give us a call at 603-283-6160. Once more, that's 603-283-6160. Or if you prefer clearer quality, you can use the Discord call-in lines at discord.lrn.fm, as well as joining in the chat there, which is always about something. Right now, they appear to be talking about saturated fats in the on-air room.
Saturated fats. Okay.
Very rarely do they actually carry on a conversation that is in any way whatsoever related to the show. I don't think saturated fats is ever a word we've even said here before on the Call to Freedom?
Yeah, it doesn't sound familiar.
Trans fats, maybe.
Oh, you like trans fats, huh?
I am not a fan of any sort of fats, actually. Whether trans or saturated or unsaturated or polysaturated or any other kind of fat. But obviously, yeah, I was getting at some sort of trans joke. I know there's one in there. I know there is a trans joke.
There's a trans joke in there. If you find it, please let us know.
Yeah, give us a call and let us know at 603-283-6160 because I can't be bothered to find it while trying to do live radio. Maybe one day. But so Brexit is not happening, it would seem, which is not a surprise to anybody. European Council President Donald Tusk told British lawmakers early Thursday to please do not waste this time. But I'm sure that's exactly what they're going to do.
Come on, they've wasted the last 2 years plus.
Yeah.
They could have had this done by now, but they didn't because they don't really want to.
Yeah, and it should be obvious to people that they don't really want to because it just is ongoing. It's like the Energizer Bunny. It just doesn't end. But you just brought in another interesting story about 2 high school students being suspended, evidently, for something that they did completely and entirely away from the school.
Oh, yeah, had nothing to do with the school or anything.
So apparently they took gun range photos on Snapchat, and they were suspended from school for doing it.
Yeah, you can't go to the gun range and shoot your gun and post it on Snapchat if you're in school because you might be dangerous.
Well, you can, but this would happen in New Jersey. Where else would this happen?
Yeah, in New Jersey where it's already very difficult to actually get a gun and get a permit for the gun and all that.
So 2 male students at Lacey Township High School in New Jersey posted photos of guns on Snapchat. One of the boys captured his photo with hot stuff, and if there's ever a zombie apocalypse, you know where to go. The photos were not taken at school. They were not taken during school hours. They did not reference a school. They auto-deleted after 24 hours, which was well before the school became aware of them. And yet, administrators at the school suspended the boys for 3 days and also gave them weekend detention.
Yep.
This was a clear violation of the students' First Amendment rights, and now the American Civil Liberties Union has filed suit.
Now, the thing about the ACLU is that they shy away from anything having to do with guns, so if they're taking this case, it's really, really bad.
Well, it is really bad. They weren't at school. They didn't say anything about a school. It was just 2 teenagers going about their lives using social media and sharing it with other people. And they got suspended for that.
Yeah.
Young people have the right to express themselves, and with rare exceptions, they shouldn't face punishment by school administrators for it, said C.J. Griffin, a partner at the law firm who is representing the students along with the ACLU. The 2 students had visited a gun range owned by an older brother on Saturday, March the 10th. They practiced shooting with legally purchased and properly permitted guns. They also took a few photos and posted them on Snapchat. None of these snaps were threatening, and none of them referenced a school. And that's not exactly how Snapchat works. You don't take a picture and then post it to Snapchat. You take the picture with Snapchat. There is no way to upload a picture with Snapchat.
You take the picture with Snapchat, you write your little comment, and it disappears after whatever time.
24 hours.
24 hours, right.
Nevertheless, a parent of another student heard about the photos and contacted school authorities. On Monday, the boys were forced to meet with an assistant principal and an anti-bullying specialist, who quickly decided to punish them for clearly constitutionally protected speech. Sharing our completely legal weekend activities on Snapchat should not result in 3 days of ISS, said Cody Conroy, one of the 2 students. The other student was a minor at the time and is not named in the lawsuit. But the Supreme Court has held that public schools may not arbitrarily infringe on students' free speech rights unless the speech in question is substantively disruptive to classroom proceedings. That clearly was not the case here.
Oh, but everybody's going to get so scared because these people might shoot somebody.
Yeah, but their fear isn't what determines what is and isn't acceptable. And that's a slippery slope that we should not allow ourselves to go down.
Indeed.
Because people can be scared of anything, whether it's justified or not. And if we allow people to be punished just on the basis that, hey, this person is afraid, then we sort of lose control of our rights.
I mean, I was reading something that I saw on Facebook earlier today that was like kids are jumping afraid of like balloons popping, and they've just scared everybody with all these school shooter drills, and these are rare events, but they've been just drilled into people that this is something that happens all the time, and you have to be afraid of it, and you have to.
Well, they do happen a lot. I'm not willing to say
they happen a lot more than they should.
I'm not willing to say that school shootings are rare. I mean, relative to what?
Relative to not being shot?
Okay, yeah, sure. On the average day of school, you are more likely to not be shot than you are to be shot. But you only have to be shot in a school shooting once.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But they are certainly, not to dispute your main point, sorry. They are certainly drumming up the hysteria in regard to it. Because they have nursery rhymes in kindergarten classrooms now about how to react when, there's a shooter in the school and other horrific things. And even though I was in school when Columbine happened, and even then, we weren't this freaked out.
Yeah, I know. When I was in school, it was duck and cover. And that goes back so far, you might have to Google it.
Was that in regard to nuclear weapons?
Yes, that was in regard to the nuclear bombs falling.
Well, that's what they're saying now, essentially, isn't it? Duck and cover?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's not going to help.
But the thing is, it didn't seem to emotionally scar us then like it did people today.
What did you go through drills though? I mean,
yes, we went through drills.
Did they?
Duck and cover.
Were they supposed to be live, realistic drills?
No, they didn't.
Okay, Russia is dropping nukes on us. Get under your desks.
No, they didn't pretend to drop a nuke. We just kind of did the duck and cover.
Because that's what they do today, right?
Yeah, they do active shooter drills where they execute the teachers by shooting a pellet gun in the back of their head.
Holy crap! Yeah. They've done that?
Yes, we talked about that a couple weeks ago on Free Talk Live.
I was not aware of that. I was thinking more it was, teachers were like, oh my God, there's a shooter. Everybody duck and cover, which is going to be jarring for students anyway. But you're saying they have people come in with pellet guns and pretend to murder their teachers.
Yes.
Holy crap. Where are the expletives when I need them? Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom here on LRN.FM. And as always, you're invited to give us a call at 603-283-6160. And before we went out to the break, I was expressing my shock at what has been revealed to me to be a tendency among teachers in Indiana to participate in these mock shooter drills, wherein they are shot in the head with pellet guns in order to make it seem more realistic to the children. And as always, I would remind people that from the point of view of a child who is experiencing one of these things, the emotional effect of it is identical to the emotional effect of an actual school shooting.
Yeah, they're literally traumatizing your kids.
Just a week, according to The Independent, just a week after shooting teachers with pellet guns during school shooting drills was banned in Indiana. And good God, it's one of those things that you just have to stop and marvel that it was even necessary to ban this. Okay, you can't use a pellet gun to shoot teachers during mock shooter drills.
Yeah, the obvious. You'd think it was obvious, but, apparently they wanted to make it realistic.
Yeah, which traumatizes kids.
Apparently it traumatized the teachers a little, too.
State politicians, however, are attempting to loosen the restriction.
Oh, my God. What?
Citing the need for raw emotions and adrenaline, also known as citing the need to traumatize people's children, state senators are pushing forward with an amendment that would allow individuals participating in the drills at schools to hit teachers with projectiles like plastic pellets if they consent beforehand. It's got to do with reality and making sure they experience the emotions and adrenaline.
Oh, my.
State Senator Jeff Rest, the chairman of the state's education committee, told the Indiana Star. And, I mean, they seem to be pretty upfront about it. Hey, we're trying to make your kid experience the actual emotions and adrenaline of an actual school shooting.
Oh, this is not how you train someone to respond to a school shooting.
No, that's how you traumatize people into being completely afraid of what you terrorize them into believing is going to happen to them unless they give up just a little bit more control of their lives to you.
Yeah, and freedom, and let's take away everyone's guns while we're at it.
The amendment effort comes just after a week after the practice was banned and months after teachers at an Indiana elementary school were injured during an active shooter drill. During that training, 2 teachers said they had been told there would be airsoft guns during the drills, but they did not expect to actually be shot. Sorry, the article continues halfway down the page after one.
About
hold up,
14 pictures. Yeah.
No, they're not even related to the article. That there's 1, 5, 6, 7 different videos and advertisements before I could get back to what they wanted to discuss, before we can get back to what this article is literally about.
Okay, that's a bit overboard.
And if that's not enough, of course, there's those spammy article links over on the right and an advertisement for Elvenar, which is a game that I will never play on principle simply because it's an ad on this freaking website while I'm trying to do work.
Okay, I can't help you there.
But if I was to turn on the ad blocker, they wouldn't even let me view the site.
Do we not have the ad blocker? I thought
it's been disabled for incognito. But you can't do anything with new sites with ad blockers disabled. They won't let you. They require themselves to be whitelisted, which completely defeats the point.
Oh, it's getting crazy.
Yeah. Active shooter drills have become commonplace in the United States over the past 2 decades as school attacks have become more and more common. The issue was thrust into the spotlight following the deadly massacre in Parkland, Florida, where 17 people were killed after a gunman opened fire in Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. And again, I think this is the one where the cop ran and hid.
Yeah, that's the one where the cop ran and hid.
Yeah. So much for the police being there to protect your students.
Now the funny thing about that is also I saw a photo the other day from back in 1973 about how a school responded to a possible school shooter showing up. And it was a teacher and a student at the front door, both of them holding rifles and shotguns, waiting for the school shooter to show.
Cool. Since that shooting, a national debate about the appropriate response has been launched, with several significant victories being seen for gun control advocates at the local level, even as federal efforts have stalled. Now, I guess they missed the idiotic bump stop ban.
Yeah, they forgot about that one.
And that was it. That was the end of the article. That right there. That was it.
That's it.
Singularity has pointed out that this is rather like holding somebody's head under the water in an effort to prepare them to learn how to swim.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's completely stupid, and I'm legitimately shocked. I'm generally not shocked about the stupid and horrible things that the government does. But I am legitimately shocked that anybody thought it was a good idea to pretend to shoot teachers with pellet guns, to actually shoot teachers with pellet guns in order to pretend like there was an active school shooter there on the campus. And they're openly admitting that, the goal of this is to instill legitimate, real emotions into children.
Yeah, they really want your children to be afraid. That's the point.
Yeah, which is going to traumatize them for a very, very long time, if not for life.
As opposed to how they handled this 40 years ago, which is to grab their guns and say, come at me, bro.
Cloud Beast asked, did the parents consent to this too? Well, the parents' consent to it is kind of irrelevant because they put their kids in the public school.
The parents don't get a say in this.
No, they turned it over to the state to decide what is best for their kids, and the state decided that these mock shooter drills were what was best. They consented by turning their children over to the school to let the school make these sorts of decisions. I don't approve of that. Now, there is an issue here where school attendance is largely mandatory in the United States.
Yeah, that's a big part of the problem, compulsory schooling.
Yeah, because you end up with situations like this where you are putting people against their will into murder pens where they cannot fight back and where they generally cannot escape and where they look increasingly like prisons.
Yeah, the school designs that I've seen lately, they do look a lot like prisons.
Where I went to high school, there were several buildings. It was a decently large campus. We were able to wander between them at will. There was no fence around it.
Yeah.
It was 5 feet off the road. Nobody ever got ran over or kidnapped or anything like that. But oh my God, I cannot believe Twitch chat right now. But they closed that school and they moved it to a new one, which is a single building surrounded by a fence and razor wire.
Razor wire?
Razor wire. It looks identical to a prison. It even has the little narrow window strips like prison.
Okay, that's just going too far.
Baraka66 has asked on dlive.lrn.fm, are we supposed to be here on Twitch? Well, you can be wherever you want to be.
You can make that choice for yourself. We're not trying to dictate your personal tastes and preferences. That's up to you.
The students do not need access cards, but they do go through metal detectors every single morning. And this is rural Mississippi. This isn't the slums of Memphis, right? This is just rural Mississippi where, I mean, they have actual cows there at the school as part of the ag program. And yet, the school building now is just a single building, and it looks like a prison. They can't leave during the day, and that was one of the benefits, because I did this.
Oh, yeah.
I was kind of unruly in school, as you might imagine. Me being an anarchist today, I might have been a little hard to deal with as a teenager.
Just a little.
Where on several occasions, I just got up and left the school, because I don't want to be here anymore, so I'm not going to be.
Yeah, me either.
And there were no fences that I had to walk through. There was no razor wire to climb over. There were no locked doors.
Parking lot.
I just walked out. And it wasn't really a problem. Didn't get kidnapped. Didn't get hooked on heroin. Didn't get sold off to sex-crazed maniacs in Memphis. It was just what you would expect. I was a teenager who left. Well, this is the Call to Freedom. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom. And maybe you really like this show and have been wondering how you can help and show your support. Well, social media shares certainly go a long way, but so does cash. And you can do so by using Patreon at patreon.com/call to freedom. Our wonderful patrons there are helping to keep the show up and running, including the podcast at calltofreedomlive.podbean.com. And we can't thank them enough for showing their support for our efforts by helping to ensure that our efforts are ongoing. Once more, that's patreon.com/call to freedom if you would like to check it out. They are still talking about whether or not I'm a power bottom in the Twitch chat.
Well,
still. It has been like an hour and a half.
Why don't we just put that to rest so we can move on to something more interesting?
No, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to something more interesting and let them debate it.
But we were talking about a mock shooter drill that happened in Indiana, which apparently, I think this probably would have traumatized me. And I'm not exactly unresilient. But for educators, school shooter drills have become a grim ritual, sort of like fire drills, except we were never actually... Well, actually, yeah, we were never told there wasn't a real fire when we went through a fire drill, but we also weren't pretending to be in any sort of danger from it either. It was okay. You just leave the building and you go outside and you stand there.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the buildings, you can't make concrete blocks burn. So what kind of fire are you going to have?
Well, they're not all entirely concrete blocks.
Oh, the schools I was in were.
Well, I mean, they still have ceilings and stuff like that that can burn.
Yeah, I guess you could burn the ceilings, but you're not. You're just going to walk out the door, and if there is a fire, it'll burn itself out because like I said, you can't burn the concrete block walls.
Yeah, you're not under threat of being killed in a fire during a school fire drill. But as reported by the Indianapolis Star, law enforcement officers lined teachers up and then shot them execution style with an airsoft rifle. Pellets left bloody welts and caused panic. Teachers had not been warned that officers would use a training weapon during the drill. They told us this is what happens if you just cower and do nothing, one anonymous teacher told the Star. They shot us all across our backs. I was hit 4 times. It hurt so bad.
Oh, yeah. Those things, they just say it stings a little. But no, it hurts a lot more than that.
Well, paintball stings a little if you, get hit in the face or something, or if it's cold outside. But,
well, you're shooting people with, 177 pellets. You may even break the skin and wound somebody.
Well, apparently they did. A few people had their skin broken by these things. White County Sheriff Bill Brooks, whose department conducted the training, says that his officer stopped using the rifle after they were made aware that one teacher was upset. But multiple teachers complained, so the state's largest teachers union, they've asked legislators to amend a pending school safety bill so that it would prohibit safety drill instructors from launching projectiles at teachers. I just can't believe this is even necessary. I can't believe that it had to be pointed out that, hey,
this is not a good idea.
No, and the lawmakers who have said, no, we want this to happen as of this week, are admitting that what they want is to traumatize kids. They're not using that word, but they have said that they want the emotional reactions of the children to be as real as possible.
Right, which means scaring them, frightening them, traumatizing them, just like if there had been an actual school shooter.
Yeah, because I don't know the stats on this, but I would bet that most of the kids who have gone through an actual school shooting are fairly traumatized by the experience.
I would say most of them are.
So if you make that experience real, you're going to get real trauma.
And in that case, what aside from there not being any dead people, what's the difference between you and an active shooter?
Well, in the moment, there isn't one. I mean, I can't imagine what it would have been like to watch people with guns take one of my teachers out of the classroom and execute them execution style.
Yeah,
that's got to be traumatizing.
It's beyond the pale.
Brooks opposes the amendment. We don't need legislation in White County. We're just not going to do it. But Keith Gamble, the vice president...
if they were not going to do it, they wouldn't have done it.
...says that they want employees and students to be in a safe environment, even if there has to be training.
This is not training.
No, they keep using that word, training. It's desensitivizing trauma, what it is.
They have not trained anyone to do anything here. They have just gone on a little rampage like in shooting spree.
It occurs to me that the government in Indiana is essentially using the same tactics that psychopathic Dwarf Fortress players use when they want to make battle-hardened dwarfs. What you do is you create this pit and you drop the dwarf into it, and then you drop kittens on them until the dwarf has witnessed so much trauma that they go insane, and they're just completely numb to it at that point. That's relatively, or you put them, if you want them to actually take part in battles regularly, you put them in pits where only the strongest survive, where they have to fight off wild dogs for their entire lives.
Oh, my.
Well, not their entire lives, until they reach adulthood. There are some sick players playing Dwarf Fortress.
It sounds like it.
But it produces some really funny things. It's amazing that this game produced by one person even allows that kind of shenanigan to take place.
Well, that does kind of make a statement, though.
In what way?
Because you know, if you torture a character like this, even if it's an NPC, this is what the result's going to be.
Oh yeah, it's going to be eventual desensitization. How do you say it? Desensitization? Yeah, God, okay. That is a word.
That's the biggest word we've used all day.
But that's what you're going to get, and whether you do that to kids using mock shooting drills that allow them to watch their teachers get carted off like they're Jews being led to the slaughter by Nazis, or whether you are doing it to digital smiley faces in an ASCII-based video game that simulates an unreal amount of reality, you're going to get trauma. And if you get enough of that trauma, you can turn that completely broken, insane person into a useful tool to be bent to your will.
So is that what the active shooter drills are all about? Turning our kids into useful tools that can be bent to our will?
I would say it's a part of it. Well, that's the school system as a whole, I would say. Is that its entire purpose is to, bend kids to the will of the state. That's
been its entire purpose for as long as we've had compulsory schooling. The active shooter drill, though, it just seems like it's a really effective tool to that end.
Yeah, because it has that trauma aspect to it, which makes them scared of guns and the things caused by guns. And then you get an 18-year-old who says, well, it's just obvious that we need to ban guns because they're only used by bad people to commit shootings. That's what you end up with. And when you're simultaneously suspending 16-year-old students who go to shooting ranges in completely legal and innocuous ways, completely outside of school, never mentioning the school, just being teenagers doing something outside of the campus that happened to be a shooting range, getting suspended for 3 days and being sent to ISS for a week on top of that.
I think we went terribly wrong when all the high schools got rid of their on-campus shooting ranges.
I can neither agree nor disagree because my school was definitely country, but it was not that country. We did have a class where they taught you how to castrate a donkey.
I never learned that one. But
I never took that one either. We also had the same teacher would quite regularly make possum chili. That's correct. Possum chili.
How was it?
I never ate any of that crap. Are you kidding me? There is nothing on this earth that would cause me to eat a possum.
No?
They're disease-ridden, parasite-infected. I imagine that, he knew what he was doing, so he had some way of removing that or whatever, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not eating a possum. No. I'm from Mississippi, but I'm not a redneck.
Oh, you're not going to the Roadkill Cafe?
No, I'm certainly not. These possums, to be fair, I don't believe were roadkill. But I never asked I never took the class because I didn't want to learn how to castrate a donkey, and I didn't want to learn how to cook a possum. But this was an actual class that was being taught at my school. But we didn't have a shooting range. But we did have, it was just sort of understood that, everybody had a gun in their home.
Yeah.
Everybody knew how to use it. We did have hunter's education when I was in the 5th grade, and that was part of the school curriculum, but we didn't take any guns to school for it. Probably could have, but didn't. This is the Call to Freedom. Don't go anywhere because Free Talk Live is coming up next.